All right, cool. So, welcome to Watch Story Podcast episode 2. All right, this time we're incorporating video. So, for those who are viewing this in Spotify or Apple Podcasts and so on, you will not have the video or certain stuff that we're showing on screen. But yeah, so basically we have myself, James, Han, and also Rene. Unfortunately, Tim could not join us for this session. And fun fact is, this is actually our second session of the same exact topic because of certain technical difficulties of the particular audio was screwed up in the first one. So yeah, we'll redo it again. So oh well, we'll make it work, and then we'll try to get episode 3 up as running as fast as we can. So cool. So basically today we're gonna talk about how does one get started into watch collecting? What are like the do's and don'ts, tips and tricks, and basically our particular experience to help someone get started into the world of watch collecting. All right. So I think a couple of feedbacks that we get is like they want visual aid in terms of what are the watch the stuff that we're referring to, and also basically get the jargons and everything to ones who are not aware at all in terms of the world of watch collecting. So I think before that, let's do a quick wrist check of the watch we're wearing today. So I got my Speedmaster on today with the Uncle Seiko vintage inspired strap. Yep, so that's got on
The
today.
flat link bracelet, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice. And I'm rocking the BB58, one of my more recent purchases, this one.
Nice.
Okay, I'm actually wearing my Rolex Explorer in a rubber B strap.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah, I just came back
Yeah.
from
Nice
somewhere
strap.
as well.
Do,
I
do,
forgot to
do,
change my watch. I was
do
supposed to
do
wear
you
an
normally
IWC.
normally prefer the rubber strap over the bracelet, or it's
Yes,
yeah.
yes, I prefer the rubber strap over the bracelet because it's lighter and I think it sticks better on my skin
Oh, okay,
It's a
fair enough.
it's a
compared to the bracelet.
perfect everyday watch for you, is it?
Yes, yes, especially.
All right. Okay, so getting straight into the particular topic today. So how does one start getting into the world of watch collecting, right? So what are the things that they need to know? What are the things they need to do, and so on. So yeah, any of you guys want to go first?
Yeah. Renee, you want to take this first?
Okay. Let me take this first. So, how to start your watch collecting? I think the first thing that you need to consider is the looks of the watch, the looks and the size of the watch. So you need to know what watch sizes fit your wrist. Basically, a good point to start with is around between 36 to 40 mm and a normal size Asian wrist. Uh, so you can start with that. Or if you're not sure, you need to fit in the shop. If you're buying online, make sure to fit in the actual store first. So I think it's very important for you to really like the design of the watch because you'll be wearing this for a very long time. The movement as well. Aside from the looks, the size, I would advise to consider the movement as well. So later, maybe James and Han can discuss about what's the difference of manual wind, quartz, and automatic movement. So that's
Yeah.
what I would
And
say.
and yeah, and I think size is something that's often overlooked, especially if people are new to the hobby, because I think I was in that position as well in the past where, as starters of the hobby, you might always, Google the watch pictures and all that, and it always looks nice, right? Because they're all professionally taken and on the proper wrist size that fits the watch. And when you see in person, it might still look good in hand, but then once you put it on your wrist, and then you might have a different opinion. So definitely try to look at it in person or try it out at the local stores and whatnot. Then you can see whether it really fits you, lah, right? Especially as what Renee said, Asian wrist tends to be a bit smaller, so yeah, it's a bit harder to pull off certain bigger size watches, in my opinion, anyway. Right? Some
Mm-hmm.
some people still like to rock the big size ones, and if that's their style, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think end of the day, to there's a lot of things that can be said. There's a lot of forums and reviews that can be viewed and everything. But down end of the day, it's really what makes you happy, right? I mean, like you can say that this is the standard sort of guidelines and everything. These are the typical do's and don'ts. But you can, I mean, feel free to be out of the norm if that's your thing, right? I mean, if you want to go for a panel ride that someone that says is too big for your wrist, then by all means it's your money and everything. Don't let what people dictate what you should buy and what you shouldn't buy. On the other hand, I would say the another tip is don't be too I would say fixated on particular reviews or comments or so on. Everybody will tell you that, oh, this is the watch that you need to have, this is the watch that you should buy and everything. But if it doesn't resonate to you, or if you don't really click with that watch, then maybe it's not the watch for you, right? I mean, the watch for 90% of the people, and then you can be the 10% that doesn't like it. All right, really find the style of watch that you like. So I think that talking about styles and movements, some things that you probably need to know is that what are different styles of watch, right? There are a lot of classification that can be placed, but I think the general one, it's really, I would say, dress and sport, right? So that's the two big pillars that you probably know, right? So like, dress watch is something very simple, typically on a leather. It's like something like that, very very simple. If the camera would just focus. So this is Orient Bambino. Really just very simple watch, very plain that goes well with formal occasion and so on.
It's a
And
very
yeah,
accessible watch as well. I
yeah.
think a lot of new hobbies. I think same for me. I started off with also my first automatic that I bought was also a Bambino
Mm,
actually.
right. And then coming up to the more the sportier side, the more tool watch kind is like the standard one's like a diver, a Seiko SKX 009. That's something like that. Something like this is also like a professional sports slash tool watch, which is um, less for formal, more for everyday wear, depending, right? So like divers, people usually use this to go diving back in the days, where you have the rotating bezels right here that allows you to time how long you be in the water, and you have your speedmasters where you use to time the speed of a particular vehicle, typically used in racing, and then you have your pilot's watch. Every single watch has their own use cases. If there's a use cases that fits you, if you want a watch that you want to bring it for everyday wear, you want it to be very tough, you want it to withstand certain water resistance or weather conditions and stuff like that, then that's something that you can look into as well. So there's you can go by either by use case, by budget,
Yeah.
or you can even go by like if you like the history of it, like the Speedmasters is like the first watch on the moon, stuff like that. If that's your thing, you can go with that. So there's tons of ways to really figure out what you want to buy, and there's a lot of things that we can advise as well. But I think I think the main thing is that you need to identify why are you buying the watch in the first place. I think that's a good starting ground to start with, lah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think budget is also a big factor, especially if you're new to the hobby. You don't want to splash a big amount of money into a luxury brand for your first purchase, unless you have the avenue of trying on a lot of your friends or other hobbies watches, and then you know for sure like, okay, this is the one I want. If not, then maybe start a bit smaller, like Japanese brands like Seiko, Orion. You can try a lot of different styles
Hmm.
and spend less money, and then experiment and see which one is that you want to really splurge on a little bit more. And it's also a great way for you to, once you identify the style that you like, and then you have like a grill that you aim for, and then go for it, rather than right off the bat try to already say like, oh, everyone likes this watch, or there's a lot of rave reviews about this watch, so I want to get that. So I think experiment. There are cheap ways to experiment, and speaking about experimenting, I guess it's also worth saying that straps are a good way of experimenting styles as well, apart from just the watch classifications. And they say the cheapest way to buy a new watch is to buy a strap, right? And
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that as well. I've like tons of straps, so never short of dressing up or dressing down any watch for that matter, right?
Yeah, I think talking about straps is like Rene's that we talk about Rene's Explorer one. It's a good example, right? From the bracelet to a rubber bee strap swap, it totally changed the look and feel of the watch, and it totally transformed it into different stuff, right? So there are people that even does like leather straps on dive watches to make it more okay for formal occasions and stuff like. There's really tons of things that you can do with it, which just makes things very, very interesting. And I think I agree
Yeah.
with Hans' point as well. Typically, you need to figure out what you like and what you don't. So it's sort of like in a way I say like a relationship, right? You don't typically marry the first girl, right? I mean, like you don't usually like get that watch for the first watch that you get. So it's like you really want to in a way figure out what is your watch, what kind of watch that I mean, like, yeah. So I think that's a really good point here.
Yeah. And
But,
and
but
the
I think
rabbit hole is deep as well, right? So there's always another one that you want to work towards or save for. So
Yeah.
don't try to end the journey right there, right? I mean, everyone is like in this together as well. It's a community.
yeah, but since you also brought about the budget thing, what would be a normal budget if you just want to get into watches? Like, how much would you like budget for it?
I
It's,
think, yeah,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
think for like dress watch, Bambino will cost you about 500, 600 ringgit, right? If that's what you're going for. I mean, like, I'm just going off of my own opinion on what is good value for entry. I would say dress watch, then you can go for like a Bambino. If you're feeling if your spending capability is a bit higher, maybe a Presage, Seiko Presage, which are Seiko lines of entry level dress watches. And then, of course, for divers, definitely Seiko SKX divers are the most popular ones, and I think they are like below a grand, right? Or I mean, some of the like SKX 13, SKX 7.
The price has gone up because it's discontinued. So you
Oh,
probably want to look at Orient instead. Orient,
yeah,
Michael,
Orient
Orient
Micro.
Blu-ray, those are really, really affordable ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Chronograph wise, I don't know, maybe a Dan Henry, but that's not a automatic watch. But that's quite a famous one as well now.
But while you're on that, right, I think that's something to note as well. I think a lot of people sort of discredit micro brands, right? You have the lights of Deep Blue, Notice,
Maybe
a
you want to
lot.
explain what micro brands are
All right,
for people who don't
micro
know.
brands are how to put it this way. It's typically I would say mostly operated by watch enthusiasts, and it's produced at a very small level, and it's very much catered to a very niche audience, right? The ones that's really really into to watches. So those are micro brands, right? So typically, in terms of value for money, they're usually there, but in terms of branding power, or whatever word you want to put it, they're not there.
Second-hand value
Yeah,
or
and
whatnot.
on that as well. But it's very worth while considering something like that, because the amount of value you're going to get from this kind of brands is typically really good, and the quality it's good as well for the price that you're
Well,
paying for.
well, would you recommend micro brand for first watch? Because I think, well, first of all, chances are you can't see it in person because most of these you have to order online, and second of all, well, with that being said, then the after sales service is also pretty much non-existent, right? And then yeah,
True, true. Yeah. So then that leads to the topic of secondhand, right? Then there's the topic of secondhand. So you can definitely see those watches, those micro brands watches, or slash some of it are homage micro brands and so on. You can definitely find quite a bit of them in the secondhand market and so on. So then the next question is, should someone buy watch in terms of first hand versus second hand? What are the advantage, less disadvantage between those two?
I think Rene should take this one. I've never bought a second hand. He has. His Speedmaster is second hand, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. I would say if you can get a good value secondhand, which was not abused, then by all means go for it. Because of the depreciation of watches, I don't know,
Yeah.
it depends on the brand. Like for Omega,
Except Rolex.
it quite depreciates quite a bit. Unless you can get a Rolex, wherein the secondhand value can exceed the retail price, then if you have the patience, you have the time, if you can wait to get a brand new one, then I think you should go for a brand new one because it's so much cheaper.
I mean,
if you want to get a Rolex, but if you're not getting a Rolex or a Patek, a Nautilus, or any hot item, any hot steel watch models, yeah, I would say by all means go for secondhand if you can get a good condition watch.
did you set out to buy a second-hand Speedmaster, or was it more like just you're browsing and then you suddenly see like, oh, here's a Speedmaster
I
for a
actually
good
really
price?
want to get a brand new one, but since I got a good deal for a second-hand watch, I think the price difference was like 5K.
Oh, okay, that's a lot.
It's quite a lot for me
That's
because
like
it was my first
30% of the
good
actual watch,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yep. And factoring in if I need to send it to service, maybe additional 2K. It's still like 3,000 difference.
Mhm.
But for me, 3,000 at the time was quite huge as well.
3,000 is still huge for me now. Did you have a checklist when and I know a lot of people encourage like here's a list of like, I mean, if you go to the forums and watch forums, I'm sure you can Google a list of the 10 things that you need to check, for example.
Yes, normally I watch like unboxing videos of a brand new watch and things to check like the movement, alignment of the indices and all the minor details. I get to check that as well. And of course, you need to check if it has a complete set like a warranty card, boxes, and all the accessories included. And you're also free to check with the authorized dealer, any authorized dealer or the boutique, just to verify if the watch is authentic or not. I mean,
and I think here's a bit of like, I don't know whether you guys have been in this situation, like, but maybe you'll be in a dilemma because like you're there and then the watch, everything checks out, and then there's this one minor flaw, like maybe the alignment is just a little bit off, but you're there already, the watch is there for you to just close the deal. I mean, I don't know, would that change your mind if it's just a minor thing, or would you just like?
Yeah, if I see a minor flaw, I'll negotiate for a discount, additional discount.
Just ask for discount.
Yeah, just ask for additional discount. Yeah, I think that will do for me.
Fair enough. So I think to me, I think on the other hand, I think myself and Han are, we both have not bought any secondhand watches, right?
Not yet,
yeah, not yet at least. So I think one of the reasons why, for me, why I go first hand over second hand, I think ease of mind is one thing, right? It's just I think if you really work for it and you really look deep and you do your homework and you do your research and everything, you take your time to really speak to each and individual sellers to find out that you can really able to find a good deal out of the second-hand market, right? But for me, it's just it's I would call it maybe a hassle in a way, and it's probably a ease of mind that I'm not willing to go through at least yet, right? Or at least for the watch that I'm buying at that price point, it's really not worth, for me personally, just for my opinion, not worth that bit of savings, right? For a little bit extra, I get a brand new warranty, and I personally like to have my name on the warranty card, right? So especially if it's a watch that I will not sell, having that particular name and warranty card sort of it to me is a complete package, right? You have the box, you have the papers, it's all in your name and everything. If I pass it down to my future generations and everything, it's my name in that warranty card instead of someone else's. So I think that's something that's important to me lah.
Yeah, I guess personally, I mean, at least as of now, the only time I can really see myself buying second is probably if it's something that's not available in the market anymore. For example, a vintage watch, right? Obviously, you can't buy a vintage watch off the shelf. You have to buy it secondhand, right? Unless it's passed down from your ancestors or whatnot. And if it's a JDM, Japanese domestic market release, means only release in Japanese market, then you kind of have to go that kind of route as well. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the ways that I can, the option that I see when I will go for secondhand. Also, I guess one of my dreams or grail is to get, like, for example, a birth year submariner. Basically a submariner that's from the year that I was born, right? So 1990, and of course there's no way for you to buy firsthand for those kind of scenarios. Yeah, but if it's like, off the shelf and available, then I feel like it has to be like a bloody good deal for me to consider secondhand.
Right, and I think for certain people as well, buying it firsthand sort of gives them that sort of luxury experience, right? You have the dealer that showcase you the watch, hand it to you personally, explain to you what you need to do and stuff like that. It gives you extra freebies and so on, and especially if you compare between boutiques and AD. So, for example, it's like boutiques are like literally just one brand. If you go to an Omega, it's just an Omega store. AD is authorized dealers such as Hourglass, Wata Time, and so on. Typically, they resell. Yeah. So those typically the experience is not as high as compared to a boutique. However, AD typically gives a higher discount percentage as compared to a boutique, right? So that's something to be noted of as well.
Yeah. Quite substantial actually, right? So I think, I mean, just for argument's sake, I think if you're looking at the Speedmaster, for example, from an AD you could get like 16%, and I guess from a boutique you could get, I guess, at most 5.
Yep.
Yeah, if you have good connections, then maybe 5, right? Yeah. So I guess, and I think worth noting as well for boutiques, like you say, it's for a luxury experience. They serve you champagne, I don't know, and then they give you like pens and all that. And I guess if you go back and buy more watches, then you get better service. You get invited to exclusive events and all that. So it really depends.
Yeah. It's a little bit off topic as well, but it is typically, this is something down the road of a typical watch journey. You typically make your way up to the luxury watches, but since we're on this topic, we'll talk about it anyways. And one thing to note of as well, we're talking about boutiques, right? Typically, if you build a good a relationship with the dealer, the boutiques, it allows you to get certain benefits slash privileges. I think, like, for example, if a limited edition of a Speedmaster release, right, a Speedy Tuesday or something like that, you'll be able to get it easier through that connection, right? So typically, and this is very much relevant to Rolex boutique or Rolex dealership, right? If you want to buy certain watches, you need to really build that relationship. You need your purchasing records and so on to really get you there, or you're extremely lucky, right? That's just how it is due to the demand, right? So yeah, that's interesting thing to note of. Yeah.
Is that what you're doing now, James?
Try my best. Yeah. So yeah, I always want a Rolex sub or GMT and so on, but yeah, hopefully one day I'm able to get it through the proper channel. Yeah, we'll see. So if any like Rolex dealership is listening somehow, yeah, I'm in the market for a sub or GMT. Yeah, one or the other. Yeah.
You and everyone else.
All right, cool. So I think I realized I forgot to talk about this, right? So I think Rene, you talk about the difference between the movement, right? So I think let's quickly talk about that. I think the different movements of watches, there are your standard battery operated watches, which typically called quartz movement, right, operated by battery, and you have you mentioned hand wind and automatic. So what are the difference? So this is a Yanghan Max Bill hand wind. So this is a hand wound watch. So typically what it does is it's manually wind. So you just twist the gears right here, the crown. You twist it, and the gears behind will move and ensure that it has sufficient time through the run, right? So it's like, you imagine, that that toy, that particular that you twist behind and then it starts turning and you move it. sort of like the same logic for this, but just there's a lot
Yeah.
more gears inside that allows you to operate it.
Yeah.
Right.
Basically,
And
it stores your kinetic energy and releases it over the next 48 hours, right? If the power
yeah.
reserve can last for 48 hours, then you
Yep.
wind it till it's full, and then it slowly releases
Mm-hmm.
the energy.
Yep. And automatic watches works similarly to that, just that you have a rotor behind of the particular watch. As you move and swing your arms, everything, the particular movement and rotor behind will allow you to
Is
generate the
that a
same
display
energy.
case back?
No, unfortunately, I don't have one. So if you
Uh,
guys have any, yeah, that would be
I
great.
have, but yeah,
It's
I
fine.
can go
Yeah.
get mine.
Right. So yeah, I think one of the difference to also note as well between a automatic and a hand-wound watch is that a hand-wound watch is typically a lot thinner compared to automatic watches, right? Because you do not need the particular rotor behind of your watch. So that's one of the key difference. In terms of which movement to get as your first watch, um, it really depends, right? I would say it depends. Right, there you go.
Yeah,
That's
so
a case
that's
back.
the rotor at the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
if you can see it. So when you wear it, then it goes around. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the best way to display that, but yeah, there's a rotor in there.
Mm-hmm. Cool, cool. Yeah. So talking about like different movements, right? Like if someone were to ask, what movement watch should I get? There's to me, I think there's no right or wrong, right? Some people very much focus on the movement before the watch. Some people focus on the brands before the watch. Some people focus on the type before the whatever, right? There's no right or
Mm,
wrong answer. Just go with what you're looking for. Um,
yeah,
some people only buys in-house movement. Some people buys so in-house movement is the ones that's produced and you have your own R&D for your own brand versus you buying off from someone else like ETA movement, Silica, and so on. So there's really no right or wrong answer here. But a typical watch enthusiast would tell you to avoid quads typically. But there are actually, in fact, good quartz movement out there.
high-end quads,
Yeah,
yeah.
high end. Grand Seiko has a lot of quartz. Omega has quartz as well. Uh, the Rolex has the Oyster quartz and so on. So it's not really a bad movement, but just that historically it's just not the horology of the quartz movement is just not as prominent as compared to a mechanical watches, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess worth noting here as well, there was I don't know, I can't remember exactly what years with this, but there's the whole quartz crisis period where it was just more viable for watch producers to produce quartz watches, and accuracy wise, it's always going to be more accurate than
Mm-hmm.
automatic watch. But I guess at the end of the day, the whole art form of building an automatic watch still prevailed. Hence, here we are today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but for me, I would still advise for a beginner to stick with a manual wind watch. Although the options are quite limited. I mean, if you can find a manually wound watch, which yeah, suits your
Why why
taste,
why do you
like a
say manual one?
Speedmaster, because you get to appreciate the movement more. I would say it's like
Because you have to
driving
touch it.
yeah, it's like driving a manual car,
Mm.
wherein you know like what gear you're in, like
Yeah.
you feel the shifting of gears, but in watches you feel the winding of the power reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it
Yeah.
forces you to be a bit disciplined in that hobby that you're getting into as well, I guess. Because
Mm.
I guess
Mm-hmm.
at least for me personally, and I think this is what people try to do as well, is, for example, is even in the manual in the Speedmaster uh, manual that says that in order, they recommend that you manually wind your watch once a day and at the same time, right? So if you wind it at night, try to wind it every other night. I don't know whether this really makes any difference, but if it's in the manual, then you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I think it's more for consistency
Mm.
rather
Yeah,
than yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, depends how anal are you with your time accuracy as so on, right? So that's like whole other level of things. There's watch enthusiasts that really, oh, my watch is plus minus plus two plus three and everything. They really keep track on things like that. So really, there's tons of reasons to buy watches. So end of the day, we'll share some of our personal experience, some personal opinion and everything. But end of the day, do what makes you happy. If you want to buy a watch for whatever reasons that you may have, you don't need to explain it to anyone. Just buy it and be happy with it and wear it. All right.
Yeah.
Only thing I say is don't. I'll say two advice is one thing is don't be afraid to be out of the norm. If someone tells you that you shouldn't buy it, but if you really like it, and you consider all reasons that was and advice that was provided to you all in all, and you still want it, by all means go ahead. And second is that if you want to buy a watch, say that you have your eye on a Omega Speedmaster, right? You say you have your eye on that, and then you are probably like, say you're 3K short of it, and they say, oh, it's okay, I'll buy something else instead, and then I'll buy the Omega Speedmaster next time. Right? I'll say just wait a little bit more, and you won't regret it. I think good things come to those who wait, right? So really, if you got your eye on it, it keeps you motivated, keeps you going, and you get it eventually, and you just wait for it. Don't settle for anything less. I think that's typically, based on my experience at least, that's things I regret doing, buying sort of like interim watch, and then end up being like tossed aside once I get the thing that I really want, and it sort of it defers me from getting my watch in on time as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also, at least for me personally, when you buy these kind of watches at a certain price point, you sort of want to tie it to a milestone as well. So you wouldn't want to shortchange yourself by saying like, hey, I'm just gonna buy an in between right now because for whatever reason, right? So it's always better to just have that delayed gratification
Yeah.
at the end, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's talk about, I would say, where to buy watches. So we touched a little bit on ADs and so on. The next thing we talk about, it's really online versus retail, right? Where would someone buy their watches? There is someone say that, all right, online, based on my experience, is typically cheaper, but the downside of it is you don't get to try on the watches, you don't get to see it in person. The colors may differ because of the picture and so on. Your sunlight, how the lights reflects on the watches changes how it looks in person as well. So that's very key thing. One advice is always try on the watch. If you manage to try it on in person and you're able to buy it online at a cheaper rate, I think that would be the ideal situation for me.
Yeah, I think similar, but I guess like for myself, I bought this the Seiko Sub 33, also discontinued and quite hot in the market. And I think the price is kind of like increasing right now as well. I mean, for me, I have no other choice but to buy this online because it's a Japanese domestic market release. So I bought it from Amazon Japan. So there's no other way for me to buy. I guess two things personally. One is, yeah, like in this case, you can't get this. And another is, past a certain price point, I would imagine that I would much prefer to buy at retail anyway, just for that experience, peace of mind, having that whole experience of the box being open in front of you, getting the bracelet fitted in a watch shop, right? So I guess, yeah, personally, it's price point and availability, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would agree with both of you as well. So if you can get a try at the watch in a physical store first, then you can get a
Yeah,
cheaper price online and a repeatable online seller, then I think you should go for it. Like what you did, Harn, like for this SARB 33 example, because you already pretty much already know the dimensions, and there's so many reviews about that. You can see like so many people wearing it, a lot of pictures, so you're able
yeah,
to gauge like how it fits your wrist.
yeah,
But for the less popular watches, I think it's a bit difficult to buy online first unless you really know the dimensions
yeah. Yeah, and
and
that's
make sure it
exactly
fits
how
you.
I got to buy this Sub 33 actually, because I saw it a lot on some of the Facebook groups. I think for those who are listening and are interested, Personally, I think UGWC is a good watch community to join on Facebook. For Malaysia, there will be MWG, Malaysia Watch Group. But yeah, a lot of yeah, it's also quite a rabbit hole where you see certain pictures and then you suddenly like, whoa, you realize that, hey, what's this little beautiful thing, right? And then you just get sucked into the whole thing. But yeah, that's how I found out about the watch, and a lot of pictures will show you how it looks like on a different wrist, different strap combinations, and and if you go towards on YouTube and watch certain reviews where, especially if you know your wrist size and the reviewer states their wrist size and if it's similar to yours, you can kind of imagine how it will look like on your own, right?
Yeah. So it's like I mentioned as well, like buying extremely expensive watches, for example, like let's say even for a Speedmaster, right? It's not something that I'm willing to go through to take the risk of chance, right? Of having the parcel potentially being lost, right? That would be a very dreadful feeling that says that, all right, I paid over 10 grand for the particular watch and end up it just went missing in the mail. That's something I will not go through. Anything that's past a certain price point, definitely will not buy it in through mail, right? I'll only buy it in person, even if it means not buying the watch at all, right? So the good couple of place to start is Creation Watches, Long Island Watches, and so on. Those are really good places to buy your Seiko, your Orions, and so on. That's a very very good place to buy it at a very affordable price, especially if places like Creation Watches ships to you in less than a week. A very good rate as well. Not that we are sponsored by them or whatsoever, but if they would like to do so, we are happy as well.
Is
Yeah,
Joma Shop legit?
Joe, that's a good question.
I
Yeah,
wanted to ask them about it.
so yeah, we should talk about it in that episode that didn't came out. But yeah, so Joma Shop, one of our team actually bought one of his Viso date. Yeah, he's bought his Tissot Viso date from Joma Shop, right? So there's a lot of way topics as discussed on what how legit is Joma Shop, right? For that, it's really, I mean, depends what you
Gray
consider
market, is
legit.
it?
Yeah, in terms of authentic authentication of the watch, it is authentic, at least based on what we know. But in terms of like Han mentioned, gray market, what does that mean, right? So essentially, based on my knowledge, what it means is that they got it from some other places at a cheaper rate and they resell it to you, right? So they are not like a proper authorized dealer, that they get it directly from the manufacturer or the brand directly and resell it to you, right? So they get it from, for example, they travel to a country, and they're able to buy it at a cheaper price. They buy it and then they resell it at that site, right? So based on what team told us as well, the warranty that's provided to you over there is not a direct warranty from the particular dealer, right? For the brand, I mean.
Yeah.
Um,
So in his case, the warranty was with Joma Shop instead of with Tissot as the brand.
mm, yeah. So that's the particular. It's nothing wrong with that. If you're okay with that, then I think as long as you know what you're getting yourself into, it's okay. But don't set the right expectation, basically, if you buy from the site like
Yeah.
Drama Shop. Yeah. Don't be blinded by the cheap price and so on. I mean, there's a catch to it, which is you have to be okay with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I also think you need to consider the maintenance cost. Like if you're buying an AP online from Joma Shop, which
Yeah.
doesn't have an AP warranty, that suddenly breaks down, then
Do they
I don't
actually
know
have
how much it
APs
costs.
on Joma Shop?
I don't know. I haven't checked it out. Probably there is,
I don't know. Curious as well.
but as the watch gets more and more expensive, the more complication it is, the more expensive it is to service as well, especially if it's using an in-house movement. So just for you to consider as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the thing we talked about last week. I mean, the 2 weeks ago as well, on warranty, right? personally, I'm okay for giving the warranty at a good price point, right? To me, it's not too important to me. As long as I know that it's serviceable, I can get the parts and everything. I know what I'm getting myself into. That's a risk I'm willing to take, right? So typically, like Omega can give you 5 years warranty, right? To me, how I evaluate it, they are confident enough to give you 5 years. The chances of it breaking down within 5 years is very slim. Not to say impossible. There are off chances. There are certain exception cases as well that you have to be wary of. But it's a risk I'm willing to take in terms of foregoing the warranty for that. You know.
Yeah.
Alright. Okay, so lastly, next thing we talk about is the do's and don'ts of basically watch collecting. What is
Yeah.
I think we talked about a lot of the do's.
Yeah.
Maybe talk about the don'ts right now. What you
The
shouldn't
don'ts.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess going back to what you said earlier, James, about like, the do is to be bold, experiment it, you like it, share it with the group. There are haters. There are going to be haters there and all that, but there's also going to be people who like it, and they will vibe with you, and who knows, you might inspire them to spend on certain, not maybe not spend, but like to be happy, right? When they also take inspiration and have their own combinations or whatnot that's based off yours. So with that being said, then the don't here is don't be a snob, right? I mean, everyone has their own taste. Yeah, I mean, you can, you have your preferences or dislikes, but you don't need to shit on someone on the internet, lah. I mean, just to be blunt, right? I think that's, yeah, a lot of people tend to do that. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't see the point, lah.
Yep. So I think one of the good example over there is I think a lot of people shit on Hallmark watches, right? So Steinhardts and everything. People say it's like you should not buy a Steinhardt, right? It's like it's a Rolex ripoff and so on. But it's like to me, one, if they're not breaking any
Laws.
rule or law and everything, they did not advertise it as a Rolex, a fake Rolex and everything. I mean, if someone would want to buy it, if they like the looks of it and they can't afford Rolex, like so be it, right? I mean, like it's what makes them happy. Let them do what they want. So I think that's a very good point as well.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I think the watch community, at least the ones I know of, the likes of like UGWC, Laoyat, there's two that I'm more active in. People are typically quite friendly, right? So I think it's a very good place to really express each other's thoughts and just really talk about watches. It's like that's one of the real good reasons to get into watch as well. Be a part of the community. Everybody it's very helpful to each other. Everyone is motivating each other to go for the next goal. Helping each other with deals on straps, where to get this and so on, deals and releases of limited editions, limited releases. Like so, that's a very beautiful thing about watch collecting, right? The community to me is very important as well. All right, so yeah, don't be a snob, right? Everybody has their own opinion and everything. Just let them buy whatever they want.
Yeah, styles change as well.
Mhm.
I mean, just personally mentioning my experiences when I first started going to watch collecting, I always thought that Jubilee bracelets, which are bracelets that are like that, are like super ugly, and like only uncles would wear this kind of bracelet, right? Because it's always on the Rolex and whatnot. But over time, I suddenly realized, just one day I just see a lot of pictures. It's like, hey, it's pretty classy as well, and it has its own aesthetic to it, right? And of course, it's a rather dressier bracelet. So I think appreciation comes at different forms at different times as well. So keep an open mind, and don't lock yourself up to a certain style or aesthetic. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I would say on the do's and don'ts, I would say before you even commit on buying a watch, do research about it at least 1 week minimum.
1 week.
I mean, just to prevent like regret
Impulse purchase,
expenses,
yeah.
regret cost, impulse purchases. As every one of us have been, I've experienced that. I mean, not only in the watches but in any other expensive items. So I think just to avoid regretting of buying a watch that you don't really like, I think just do a proper research before committing and buying something.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of resources out there where you can look for reviews. Uh, Watchville, it's a good app. It's a app where it's an aggregator of the different watch sites, right? Like Holding Key and other watch websites. So I think that's a good repository, and that's one of it that Rene introduced to me. And I think that was how I also started reading a lot of watch articles and started appreciating watches a lot more.
Yep. Good point. Yeah, on that, on talking about reviews and articles and so on as well, I think I might have touched about this earlier. One, I think I mentioned don't get too, in a way, influenced slash brainwashed by those as well. That sort of deters you from your own taste. Second, you can also get overwhelmed with so much reviews and articles and so on. End up you're getting confused on what you want to buy, and so I think I believe Tim had that sort of experience, right, with his latest purchase, where he went from wanting to buy a Black Bay 58 all the way down to a vintage Datejust and so on, right? I mean, just it can get overwhelmed, and then you it can get in a way a little bit scary when you start thinking twice and so on, right? Oh, I'm spending like over 10-20 grand. I need to make this right decisions and so on. At the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. Give it a week, think about it. If that's what you really like, buy it. I
Yeah,
mean, don't be afraid that sometime down the road, 1-2 years later, you might not like it. I mean, that's life. You make a decision, you enjoy it. Yeah, enjoy it while
yeah,
you can, and then if it doesn't work out, then it's a good way to pass it down to another people that will like it as well. I think that's the whole entire watch journey about, right? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's no right answer as
Mm.
well, because, for example, if you see a good deal online, sometimes you have that feeling that, damn, if I don't snap it up within the next 1-2 days, someone else is gonna snap it up, right? So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you need to. Well, I guess in summary, you need to also know yourself and know your. I guess most importantly is your spending capabilities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't go in debt for a watch which is supposed to make you feel
Yeah, yeah.
good and happy, right? It
Don't take
shouldn't
a
give
loan for a
you.
watch,
Yeah,
right?
it shouldn't give you grief, right? It shouldn't give you grief, right?
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the don't take a loan, but if you ever go to Hourglass or Water Time, they give 0% installment and so on.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
mean,
okay.
Yeah, go for it. Go
Yeah.
for
that's
it.
Yeah.
different, right? That's like
Well,
you have the spending capability, but they're giving you
Uh-huh.
a no cost option to
yeah.
spread out, to amortize the cost. Then yeah, why not?
Yeah. So pro
But I
tip
think
if
that's the
yep.
best option to buy watches as well, right? Which is
Mm.
like to delay your payment as much as possible
Yeah.
if it's zero
Yeah,
interest.
0% interest. Yeah,
Mm.
we'll go for
Yeah.
it.
So even you have the funds to pay it all, I would still say get that
Yeah,
installment,
yeah,
put your money in the FD and pay it later. So you get your interest out of it. There's no need to pay it all upfront, right? So that's one of the hack you can
yeah.
do for that.
But don't use that as a way of, like, living month to month.
Yeah, for sure,
I mean,
for
But I
like,
sure.
think
you just imagine if, like, the COVID situation now, you have to fund, I don't know, 2,000 a month for a Rolex or something, and then you just lose your job. I think I think that will kill you, right?
Yeah,
but I
sorry,
think
Renee. Yeah,
taking installment also prevents you from buying too much.
true,
I think
true.
that's subjective, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So are
It
there
didn't.
what? Yeah, sorry. You're saying something?
No, I was supposed to ask Harn if it didn't make a difference for him.
When I bought my Speedmaster with the installment,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, of course it did, right? Yeah, it did, yeah. You know that, every month you're gonna have, that certain amount being deducted off your salary. It kind of grounds you a little bit, I guess. Yeah, you're wary of your assets and your liabilities as well.
But
Fair
what do
enough.
you think about like complete down payment even before you get a watch. Like for example, a BB 58.
Oh,
Now you need to pay like full amount, and you're not even sure when to get it.
I
Like
guess.
that's
I mean, personally, I feel like if they can promise me a date, then I might. But if it's like a running date, then I don't see myself putting money down.
Mhm.
If I like the watch enough and he can guarantee me like, oh, the next shipment is on this date, and
Yeah.
I'll definitely reserve one for you, then okay, I might fall for that. But if it's like
Yeah,
I don't know when, but the next one, but yeah, you never know like when's the next one.
to me, I'm really not a fan of that, right? Especially I'm paying so much money and there's no guarantee of date. Or there's no guarantee in terms of window as well. They will tell you maybe in the next 6 months, maybe in the next 12 months. So I think that there's not even a time window that I can get. If you say guarantee the next 6 months or guarantee 12 years or something, I think that's okay. But there's no guarantees. It's I don't know. Some people will be okay with it, but personally, I will not do it, though. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
That's a bit tough.
I wouldn't recommend that. Yeah.
So I think the last question I thought about is what is your guys' biggest regret in terms of your watch
Ooh.
collecting? Yeah.
Hmm.
I think for me, I think it started out with um when I first started out watch collecting, I ended up buying a lot of watches, right? I think in a short span of 1 year, I bought a few, right? I bought a a diver, a dress watch, and everything on, and like the sort of like a cheaper range one. And then one thing, it really adds up for me, and then it really differs for me of getting my first luxury piece, which is my Speedy, right? And I just realized that, oh, actually, if I did not make this particular impulse purchases, I will not I will probably get my Speedy sooner. But then again, if I think of it that way, if I did not make those impulses purchases, I might not be as into watches that I am right now.
Yeah.
So end of the day, I'm not sure if it's a regret or a lesson learned, but I think that's something that is part of my journey, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Mine is very, very similar to yours. My collection has somewhat became quite sizable for some reason. I remember when I bought. I'm currently using that Wolf brand box, which I got from Mass Drop. It's now known as Drop, right? Where it's 12 slots, right? So mine is a 12 slot one, and I think back then I only had like
Once again, not
five,
sponsored, by
five,
the way.
yeah, five or six slots filled up.
Yeah.
And now, and I open the box, it's like I think I only have one slot left now. So it's good and bad. The good thing is that I always have I have all the different dress codes or whatever you want to call it, the styles covered. But the bad thing is that sometimes I really feel like, oh, I'm not giving enough attention to all of these watches, or am I reaping the full value of having this many watches, right? I mean, like, you can only wear one watch on your wrist at a time. I mean, you can go for two if that's your style, but typically you need one, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of sometimes open the box and feel like, I wish I could give more time to this piece or that piece.
Yeah, for me, I think it's telling a different way. It's not more in regret, but it's more in missed opportunities. For me, like
The Batman.
yeah, the Batman.
You can get a Batman?
I know, because I used to be a Rolex hater last time.
Oh.
So back in 2015, 5 years ago, I had a chance to buy either the JLC or the Rolex Batman at the same price.
First hand, second hand, or what?
The Batman was.
The
second
Batman
hand, right?
was around like 27, 28K used at the time,
Yeah.
second hand.
And
It was like
posted. It was posted
1
up
year
by
used.
one of my friends as well, right?
And yes, that was 1 year after. 1 year after, Harn's friend Adrian.
Oh, a different person.
Is that
Yeah, it's a different person.
a Master 2 ceramic or?
No, this is a Batman.
The Batman.
first Batman. Yeah, the first
Okay.
Batman. Then the year after, or 2 years after, when Fred posted his dad's Rolex Batman for sale, I still had my JLC that time. I couldn't justify paying 35K for a Rolex Batman at that time. So I mean, I just passed on it, and now the value of it is like how much? 60.
60-ish. Yeah, you went to 70 for 1 point, I believe. When
It's
when they announced the Jubilee one, and then after that it's back down.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like it's probably more lucrative than buying top growth stocks, right?
Yeah. Oh man, dude, I feel for you, dude. That's oh shit.
It's okay. I mean, I guess cash is king, right? And the money is still
Yeah.
in your pocket. So
Yeah. I mean, it's always like it's always like hindsight is 2020, right? I mean, it's quite hard to really, um, like to make those predictions and everything. I mean, if everyone knows, then that I mean, everybody would buy it. That's
yeah.
right. So, yeah. Oh well.
Uh,
Next chance again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a never-ending journey anyway. So
All right. Any last things that you guys want to cover? We pretty much covered most of the topics that we want to talk about for today.
yeah, I think it would be good if for any of the listeners, or I mean, I don't know who any of you guys are. If you guys have any comments or any suggestions on how we can do this better, or any questions that you guys want answered. Okay, and this is just currently it's just going off of what we think people want to hear, and yeah, we would like to know what you guys want to hear. And I think also wanted to highlight that I wouldn't consider myself like a watch expert. I would say I'm pretty much like a hobbyist, right? So we want, I guess I think I speak for all of us here when we say we want to have a more safe space where you don't feel too much pressure of like us being like total watch experts or anything like that, right? This is supposed to be something a bit more palatable and friendly for anyone who's at different stages of collecting, in fact.
Yep. Yeah, the very very big disclaimer right there. We are not in a way like watch expert. In fact, I think in terms of watch collecting, we're probably at the bottom of the pile, I would say. Right? Yeah, so basically we're just telling our story, telling our journey, sharing our experience, sharing advice that we think it's useful, right? So we may or may not be wrong, right? Yeah, depend. But I just thought of something, right? I think in very recently, there's a lot of, in a way, a lot of people, at least people that I know, are more gravitated towards smartwatch, right? Your Apple Watch, your Fitbits, and so on. So where do you think this comes into to play in the big picture of watch? Is it the yes, you against it, or you don't like it, and so on?
I actually got pretty close to buying an Apple Watch at a time, and this was already when I was into collecting watches. But ultimately, I couldn't see myself buying it because that would mean that I would have to wear my Apple Watch on one hand and wear another watch on
Oh, you
my
have
left
friends
hand.
like that, Harn, right?
Yeah, but I just don't see myself doing that. It's kind of, I don't know. I mean, just not my style, and I feel it's kind of weird as well. I mean, just personal opinion. So in the end, I didn't, because I mean, for me, even when I always have a watch on my wrist, even when I'm working from home, I have a watch on my wrist. So it's pretty much, all my watches are with me wherever I go. So I just felt it was odd. I mean, having like a smartwatch, it has its uses, like counting your steps a day, what's your heart rate when you exercise. I totally get all of that stuff, and I just can't see how it can fit into a universe where I only have two wrists.
Yeah, I think it all depends on your objective of collecting watches. The reason why we and all of us here are into mechanical watches because we want something which reminds of traditional watchmaking and
Yeah.
something we can hand over to our kids in the future, something that lasts almost forever as long as their parts produced, right? But having smartwatches on the other hand, like, is more on appreciating the new technologies, which is, I think it's a totally different uh, colle- collecting, or maybe it's more related to fashion. I
Could
would
you see
say.
yourself using one, or have you used one?
No, no, no. So,
That's a lot of no's.
So no, no to both. No, you've never used, or no,
no,
you won't be using.
no,
Okay,
no, I won't use it.
Fair enough.
James.
And I think the depreciation of it as well is pretty high
It's even
because,
more.
yeah, yeah,
Fair enough. I think to me it's very much aligned as well. I actually like. I think the usefulness of the functionality it's really good if you actually use it. A lot of people, no offense, but they just buy it. They just use it as a watch, which is kind of
Oh,
defeats the purpose of buying a smartwatch. But I think if you use it to really track your fitness, you monitor your health, your heart rate, and everything, the time that you sleep, I think it's actually really good. However, the difficulty here is how does a mechanical watch and smartwatch coexist? At this point of time, I don't think there's a way yet. My
yeah.
priority still goes to my mechanical watches. I think one of the interesting thing that happened is I'm not sure if you guys heard of it before. I think a few years back, Sony releases a smartwatch band, right? So basically a bracelet, and then it has a sort of like a small screen at the bottom right here that shows you what you need to see, right? So you can still use it together with your mechanical watches. But apparently it didn't take off because I never heard about it. I just suddenly
Uh,
remember. But
yeah,
but
it'll probably
yeah,
make your watch look super bulky as well, right?
that's true. That's
So
true. But to me, if there's ability for those two things to coexist without me wearing two watches, I think that's something I would heavily consider. Right? I don't know. Right?
yeah,
Replace a chip with the crown or something that you can replace it in there without ruining
yeah,
the aesthetics and design of
yeah,
it. Yeah, that's something I would really consider if those two are able to coexist at the same time. Yeah.
yeah. I think something that doesn't affect the aesthetic, but let's say whatever the telematics that I need to see if they're on my phone. I mean, personally, I think that's good enough. I don't need an extra
Yeah.
screen, right?
Mm.
To me, it's more of the data that's being collected on my day to day, my sleep patterns or whatever, my
Yeah.
uh, how many calories I burn, how many steps I take. Those
Yeah.
are the stuff that is quite cool to me. But apart from that, I don't really need to see my WhatsApp messages on my wrist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair point. Fair point. Okay. Cool. I think we've been talking for over an hour now. So I think we'll probably wrap things up. So I think as Has mentioned it as well. Any feedback that you have or anything that you want to listen and everything, just feel free to let us know. We just created our new Instagram account as well. It's currently empty, but we'll be posting that. We were spamming that with a lot of rich shots in no time. So don't worry about that. Which is at Watch Story MY, right? WatchStoryMY. So yeah, so that is where we're going to post our latest updates, new podcast episodes, and so on. Anything that you want to comment, just feel free to drop it in there, and stay tuned for the next episode, I guess. All right. So thanks Han, thanks Renee,
All
and
right.
thanks everyone.
See
all
you
right.
guys.
All right.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.